Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I bring you guys Week 12 wide receiver start or sit decisions for fantasy football in 2020. Inside of this video, we are going to be discussing every single matchup from the Thursday Thanksgiving games all the way until Monday Night Football, and tell you whether you should start or sit the wide receivers in each given matchup. Before I get into it, I'd like to ask that if at any point inside this video you end up enjoying and you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. And real quick, before we get deep into it, I'd like to give you guys a quick word from my friends and my sponsor over at Drafters.com. Drafters.com offers a variety of fantasy football games on their website, as well as other sports if you guys play NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, PGA, all of that. But obviously, we're going to focus on fantasy football because this is a fantasy football YouTube channel. They offer a variety of Thanksgiving games. There's the Thanksgiving head-to-head where you go 1v1 versus another player on the website for a variety of entry fees. You could do a $1 game, or you can go as high as like $530. It's really, there's a huge variety of games, so you can do whatever you want with it. There's the Whale, which is a GPP where you enter with 4 other guys. You're going up against a big pool of, say, 120 players, of 24 players, based on how much you want to put into it. The $55 one, it's 24 entries into that one. If you want to do the Whale, which is just $5, there's 120 entries into that. And the Splash, the $1 entry, has 220 people entering into it. So make sure you guys check it out. It's very fun. You're just drafting up against these other players to see who does best on the weekend. You can win some big money on this website. If you use the promo code Notorious, it gives you a 50% deposit bonus up to $100 with a 10 times rollover on the bonus to withdrawal. So make sure you guys check it out. Drafters.com, code Notorious at checkout. And we are back. Let's get into it. Week 12 wide receiver start or sit decisions. We begin with the first Thanksgiving game, Texans at the Detroit Lions. This one is an interesting matchup for the wide receiver position. Both Will Fuller as well as Brandon Cooks are locked in starts for me this week. The Lions defense looked putrid last week up against the Carolina Panthers, and I expect them not to look so hot again this week. The Houston Texans offense looked potent up against the New England Patriots, and I feel like Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks are must starts in matchups that are simpler for the wide receivers, so I like Will Fuller a lot, as well as Brandon Cooks in this matchup. Will Fuller at this point in the season has just been no-brainer. He's been lights out. He really hasn't had those down games like Will Fuller has had in the past where he plays really good one game, the next game he's just shit in the bed right in your lineup, and you feel like terrible that you ended up starting him. But this year he's been really consistent thus far, so I like him. Brandon Cooks did have a down game a couple of weeks ago, but as of recently he's been all right, so I like Brandon Cooks here up against the Detroit Lions defense. For the Lions, Marvin Jones is one of those players that comes to eat on Thanksgiving. Since the Lions play so much on Thanksgiving, he's hungry on Thanksgiving. He wants to eat that turkey at the end of the game that they end up giving these players. I think it's at the end of every game. Maybe not. Maybe it's only at the end of the night game. But Marvin Jones is going to be eating something regardless, and it's probably going to be eating the Houston Texans defense and tearing them apart. I love Marvin Jones in this matchup. This guy is a Thanksgiving phenom. I expect a bounce-back game from Matthew Stafford because that offense looked bad. News bears last week. Kenny Golladay, does he even play? In my opinion, probably not. Since this is a short week, obviously them playing on the early Thursday game, I highly doubt he's back this week. Next week, though, I would assume that Kenny G ends up suiting up. Next matchup here, we got the Washington football team at the Dallas Cowboys. The second Thanksgiving game, the 4 o'clock slate. And this one for the Washington football team, I love Terry McLaurin. The Cowboys defense did look somewhat stout last week up against the Minnesota Vikings, which was a complete and utter shock in my opinion. The Cowboys defense thus far has been complete and utter dick cheese, but somehow they looked all right up against the Minnesota Vikings, but Thielen played well, as well as Jefferson in that game, so I don't expect them to be able to lock down scary F1 Terry McLaurin. For the Cowboys, Amari Cooper as well as CeeDee Lamb looked good in that matchup up against the Vikings. I'm not saying that these guys are must-start players because at this point, the Cowboys offense is kind of in my opinion, but much better with Andy Dalton under center. Because obviously, it's just everything. Something's got to look better than what they had out there when Ben fucking DiNucci was throwing the ball and Gilbert Gottfried was throwing the ball. CeeDee Lamb did look much better in that game over Amari Cooper, but on the confidence scale, I'd rank it Amari Cooper at 1, CeeDee Lamb at 2, and then Michael Gallup is dead last, dead in a fucking dirt because he just does not seem useful at all in this offense when Dakota Prescott is not the starting quarterback. Final Thanksgiving game here, the Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster is coming into this matchup clearly banged up. Now, Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? I really have no idea. What I've read, it says he's going to play. In my opinion, should they start him? Do they need him to win this game? Probably, so I would assume he would end up suiting up. In order of confidence, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool are just on a different breed when it comes to the Steelers offense. Those two are just consistent week in and week out. Obviously, Deontay Johnson does have those injury complications. I talk about this every single week with Deontay Johnson. What you're going to want to do is have him on your bench all of Thanksgiving, and then 5 minutes before the game, you flip Deontay from being a bench player to your wide receiver 2. Boom. Now he thinks he's not playing, so he won't get hurt. Deontay Johnson, I love in this matchup up against the Baltimore Ravens. Same thing goes for Chase Claypool. This man has more touchdowns than I can even count on my fingers. Just kidding. I believe he has 10, and I do have 10 fingers, but Chase Claypool has been unreal thus far this season. May end up actually winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Juju Smith-Schuster has been good in spurts. Some games he plays really good. Other games he's kind of just non-existent and a real non-factor for this offense. But obviously, when you have 3 elite talented wide receivers like Johnson, like Claypool, like Juju Smith-Schuster, you are going to have one of those guys disappoint likely in a lot of the games. And for the Ravens, Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown, has been irrelevant thus far as of recently. It just seems like Lamar Jackson has a vendetta against him. I've said this before, but it's like Hollywood Brown just railroaded fucking Lamar Jackson's mom or something because he just does not get the ball at all. It makes zero sense. Now onto the Sunday slate of games. We begin with the Miami Dolphins at the New York Football Jets. And in this one, I don't like very many wide receivers. Tua Tagovailoa just has a passion for throwing the ball to Devontae Parker in the end zone. The Jets offense and defense are not very good. The offense may be able to get something going considering how bad the Dolphins defense looked last week up against the Broncos, especially up against the run. But I expect Devontae Parker to have a good game here since the Jets defense is burnt fucking toast. Jakeem Grant, I don't really feel ultra confident in him. It feels like Devontae Parker is the real only wide receiver you can start for the Miami Dolphins. For the rest of the game, the New York Football Jets have a smorgasbord of wide receivers. Jamison Crowder, who I thought would actually have a big week last week up against the LA Chargers, was just non-existent. He just didn't do anything. Brashad Perryman, Denzel Mims, they're all guys that could do good in this matchup. Would I be surprised if one of these guys balled the fuck out against the Dolphins? No, I would not. But with the Dolphins cornerback crew being as good as they are, I'd be afraid to start any of these guys this week against the Dolphins. Next matchup here, we got the Arizona Cardinals at the New England Patriots. And in this one, I am big on DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins' former team, actually, last week in the Houston Texans, absolutely destroyed the New England Patriots, and DeAndre Hopkins would have balled out in that one, but now he's on the Arizona Cardinals, and he has looked very, 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 very safe thus far this season. The Patriots' defensive core is just not all that. I understand Stephon Gilmore will likely cover DeAndre Hopkins, but DeAndre Hopkins is built different. Gilmore doesn't look anywhere near as good as he looked last season, so I expect a big game out of Mr. DeAndre Hopkins. Christian Kirk, he seems like the kind of a guy where you play him and you're just praying for the touchdown. If he doesn't end up scoring, he'll probably will have fucked you right in the ass while your opponent watched it happen, but if he does end up scoring, he'll probably fuck them in the ass. So, it's a teeter-totter. It's one of those seesaws, Maybe he does really good, scores a touchdown, maybe he doesn't, but at the end of the day, it's definitely worthy of a risk up against a not-so-hot defense in the New England Patriots. Now, Jacoby Myers was a slap in the face to you last week in fantasy football. 2 weeks in a row before that of very, very solid matchups for fantasy football, putting up big numbers. Had an easy matchup up against the Houston Texans and shit the bed. I expect a bounce-back game out of Jacoby Myers here, and if he is not able to do it up against the Arizona Cardinals, he is going to be a guy that I'm likely not going to be starting going forward. Damiere Byrd ended up scoring last week, which obviously hurt Jacoby Myers. For the other Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald as well as Andy Isabella are just not guys you're going to want to be starting. Larry Fitzgerald is involved in the offense, no doubt, but he's not the Larry Fitzgerald of 5 years ago where he's catching like 8 balls a game. He just does not do that anymore. DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk on the team. Next matchup here, we got the Carolina Panthers at the Minnesota Vikings. If you guys have ended up enjoying this video thus far, please make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Now, this matchup is actually a pretty decent one. Adam Thielen does have COVID concerns going into this game. Will he be able to suit up on Sunday? If he tests negative a million times in a row, I believe he will be able to suit up on Sunday. If he tests positive at any point throughout that, he's done for this game and likely out the next game as well. So against the Carolina Panthers, their defense doesn't look all that amazing. The Panthers just generate these high-scoring matchups, which is kind of why I like the Lions players so much last week, but they didn't end up lighting it up. The Vikings looked all right up against the Dallas Cowboys. They should have been better, obviously, because the Dallas Cowboys defense sucks cock, but the Vikings still ended up playing well. Thielen, as well as Justin Jefferson, scored a decent amount of fantasy points in those matchups, so I like Thielen as long as he is clear to go with the corona, and Justin Jefferson, Double J, has been balling as of recently. He's another guy that had, let's say, Claypool didn't score a million times every single week, then Justin Jefferson may be up there for Offensive Rookie of the Year as well. Justin Jefferson has been playing lights out for this Minnesota Vikings team. Now the Panthers, do we see Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Bridgewater, or do we see PJ Walker? I'm not sure, frankly. Teddy Bridgewater seemed like he was going to start last week, right? Going into the game, that was the narrative. Teddy Bridgewater's going to be fine. And then, like, before kickoff, they said, we're going to go with PJ Walker instead. So what does that mean? PJ Walker played very well, and so did DJ Moore in that matchup. We actually saw what we thought DJ Moore would be thus far this season in that game. If Teddy Bridgewater returns, I don't love DJ Moore as much, but this Vikings defense is weird, right? Because last week, it looked not good against Dallas. The week before, it looked like they looked better than the Bears defense. And then other weeks, they look like shit. Other weeks, they look good. So the Vikings have kind of a volatile defense. So it is kind of tough to point your finger at a scenario where they do good or they do bad. I kind of just feel like either way could happen. So I'll go with DJ Moore as well as Robbie Anderson to start in this matchup. But if Teddy Two Gloves ends up starting, I'm less confident in DJ Moore. He would still be a start for me, though, in what I believe will be a high-scoring matchup up against the Vikings. I also like Robbie Anderson. Curtis Samuel is just a complete and utter guess, in my opinion. He will have those good games. He'll have those down games. And if Teddy Bridgewater starts, obviously, you're more likely to start Curtis Samuel. If he ends up sitting and PJ Walker is the starting quarterback, there's no way in fuck you can play Curtis Samuel. Next matchup here, we got the Cleveland Browns at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And in this one, I'm not feeling it about any of these wide receivers. If I was to lean one, it would be Baby Chark, Baby Chark, wiki, DJ Chark in this matchup. And especially since the Cleveland Browns are missing pieces on this offense, or on the defense. Denzel Ward likely may not play. And then there are reports that Garrett may also miss, even though I thought he was going to come back. So, with that said, DJ Chark could be good, but I don't really trust Jake Luton enough to want to start DJ Chark. For the Browns, Jarvis Landry and Rashad Higgins are just going to be sits. The Jaguars are going to get ran a train on by Nicholas Chubb as well as Kareem Hunt. So I don't expect the Browns passing attack to have to be very potent in this matchup for them to do well. And if someone ends up scoring in this matchup, it's just as good of a guess as it could get, because if it's Jarvis Landry, maybe he was worthy of a start. Even in this juicy matchup, I'd rather sit him down. Rashard Higgins is going to be a sit for me as well for the Browns. And Keelan Cole for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I just don't know how much they're going to be able to do in this matchup, so I'm going to sit down Mr. Keelan Cole. Next game here, we got the Les Titans at the Indianapolis Colts, a rematch of Thursday Night Football 2 weeks ago. For the Titans at the Colts, I'm not sure that this matchup's going to go how it went the first time. The first time, A.J. Brown kind of got shut down. Jonnu Smith was banged up going into the game. Derrick Henry didn't run all that well. Both of these teams are coming into this game, both playing an overtime matchup, in which they both ended up eating the W, like their name was famous Jameis Winston. So I think that this matchup is going to be much closer this time. I like A.J. Brown. I understand A.J. Brown did not do good in this matchup the first time they played 2 weeks ago, but last week, this man ate the Baltimore Ravens alive. He made this catch where he caught the ball. There's like 3 guys around him, and this man just went like, he turned into fucking Hulk, like the green motherfucker from the Avengers, and went huge and just moseyed on into the end zone with like 3 guys on him. It was beautiful. It was fuego. It was A1 like the steak sauce. I like A.J. Brown this week up against the Indianapolis Colts. Michael Pittman has played good 2 weeks in a row, so he's at the point of where he is definitely start worthy for me. This Titans defense does look ass cheeks in about the halfway through the game. Normally they just completely burn down to a crisp and do nothing. So I like Pittman this week up against the Tennessee Titans. For the other Titans, Corey Davis is kind of just a safe start player if you want like 8 guaranteed points. But if you're looking for a lot of upside, he's not a guy that I'm looking to really start. T.Y. Hilton has been a bum this season. Nothing really special about him. Zach Pascal seems to have been passed, as well as T.Y. Hilton, by Michael Pittman as the wide receiver 1 on this team. Next matchup here, we got the New York Football Giants at the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I am listing Tyler Boyd as a start because he was fine with Ryan Finley last season. Now, this Giants defense has been good thus far this season, so I'm not claiming he really has top 10 or top 15 potential. He's more of a wide receiver 2-ish 3 in this matchup. I think Boyd is able to do fine enough to be worthy of a start. Now, I need to see Teddy Boy T. Higgins play well with Finley before I could dub him as a start. That's just kind of how I feel about it. For the Giants, Shepard, Slayton, either of these guys could have big matchups. I'm not too sure which one it'll be. And even against the Bengals defense, I'm not too sure this one is going to be a mega high-scoring matchup. Even though I feel like I just think the Giants are going to end up winning, to be completely honest with you. Next matchup here, we got the Chargers at the Buffalo Bills. And no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. But with that said, the Chargers have looked good as of recently. Now, obviously, the New York Football Jets defense makes any offense look good. And I hope they make my Dolphins offense look good this week. But Keenan Allen absolutely took a dump. Just a steamy shit, like he had Taco Bell, Chipotle, and whatever that makes you just take a nice hefty one, like the bag. Keenan Allen, this matchup against the Bills isn't amazing, but he does get peppered in so many targets that it's impossible to sit him. Stephon Diggs, amazing matchup. The Chargers defense sucks cock. Pretty much a no-brainer start, in my opinion. Cole Beasley also has looked good as of recently. Now, obviously, last week, the Bills didn't end up playing because they had a bye the week before. Cole Beasley dropped 25-plus PPR points, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did it again here up against the Chargers. I'm sitting down Mike Williams up against the Bills defense, as well as John Brown up against the Chargers, because I feel like Cole Beasley is just getting more use in this offense than John Brown at this point in the season. Next matchup here, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Atlanta Falcons. And in this one, I like both Falcons wide receivers, but I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think Julio ends up suiting up on Sunday. He's listed as a game time decision, but he got hurt in that game. They didn't really bring him back into the game last week against the Saints after they got absolutely bum-fucked. So I'm not too sure Julio will even be good to go in this matchup, so he'll probably end up sitting. But if he plays, he'd be a start for me up against the Raiders defense. Calvin Ridley did look good. Didn't look amazing, but he looked good in that game, even in their loss. So I think Calvin Ridley will be a guy worthy of a start again this week up against the Raiders, who are just allowing a zillion points against them. We saw the Chiefs put up a big spot on them on Sunday Night Football. Nelson Aguilar as well as Henry Ruggs did not look good in that game, really. Nelson Aguilar did end up scoring. This defense is bad for the Atlanta Falcons, but I just feel like every week it ends up being a different guy for the Vegas Raiders that ends up lighting it up, and most of the time it's the running back group there with Devontae Booker and Josh Jacobs who are able to score or are able to put the points on the board, as well as Darren Waller. So it's like, will Ruggs score? Will Aguilar score? I don't know. So I'd honestly just prefer to sit them both. Next matchup here, we got the San Francisco 49ers at the LA Rams. Both Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods formed the Eiffel Tower over Tampa Bay Tom Brady's dead fucking corpse on Monday Night Football. Both Kupp and Woods lit it up like they were Lil Wayne in the fucking studio, and I like them both this week up against a not-so-hot 49ers defense. Pretty much a no-brainer for the 49ers offense. Ayuk, I don't trust them. The Rams defense looked really good. Deebo Samuel could return coming into the game banged up. Don't trust him. Josh Reynolds actually has looked good. Ended up scoring last night. Or did he? No, maybe Van Jefferson ended up scoring last night. But Reynolds has been solid thus far this season, but not a guy that I'm necessarily looking to play in this matchup. Next game here, we got the Saints at the Tampa Bay Broncos, the Denver Broncos, the team that murdered my NFL Dolphins team on Sunday. Made me cry a little bit, but it's okay. Michael Thomas going up against the New Orleans Saints. I like him. Taysom Hill looked right? He looked He made these throws. He made one throw deep down the field. I think it was Emmanuel Sanders where he threw it. And I legitimately thought that the Saints punted the ball because they cut to it in red zone and the ball went up and it had like this arc like it was a fucking punt. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It goes like 15 yards off that the corners were so confused that they were like yards away from him. And he just went back and caught it. Doesn't look that good, but Michael Thomas was good with him, so I'll continue to start him here up against the Denver Broncos, whose defense, in my opinion, played really good against the Dolphins, but I don't think is very good at all. For the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy, the Saints defense looks really good. I'm not playing him. Tim Patrick, the Saints defense, again, looks very good, so I'm not willing to start him either in this matchup. Next game here, we got the Fraud Bowl. The Chiefs at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers get their shit fucked in, but they probably will be scoring a decent amount of points in this matchup, just like they did on Monday Night Football against the Rams, even in the loss. Tyreek Hill is a must-start player at this. He was a must-start ever since you drafted him. When you draft a guy in the first round, unless they're hurt, you play him. So obviously I like Hill in this matchup up against the Bucs. For the rest of the Bucs receivers, Godwin, Evans, and Brown all looked good against the Rams. Evans ended up scoring. Godwin scored as well. Godwin made one of the fucking craziest touchdowns I've ever seen. He leaped and he barely almost touched the sideline. Put that thing in. Beautiful. Godwin, Evans, and Brown I like in this matchup because the Chiefs defense isn't that good, but I ultimately think the Chiefs end up destroying the Buccaneers. Next matchup here, we got Sunday Night Football between the Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. In this one, I like both the wide receivers, but I do worry about Allen Robinson in this matchup due to the quarterback concerns. Who ends up starting? Is it going to be 9-inch Nick Foles, who got carted off the last game they played? They had to bye last week. Is it that guy that came in relief of him? If he plays, there's no way I'm starting Allen Robinson. Mitch Trubisky has been bad for Allen Robinson. He actually was winning games for the Bears, but he was bad for Allen Robinson. Wasn't getting him the ball a lot. Nick Foles was. So that is concerning. So if it's Foles, I'm very in on Allen Robinson this week. If it's not Foles, if it's Trubisky, I'm still going to play him, but I'm not as confident. Devontae Adams, obviously must-start category thus far this season. MVS, this guy's not going to get a single fucking target again. Aaron Rodgers throws the ball to him in overtime, and he fumbles it. He drops it. He fucks the game in the ass because they would have beat the Colts. I bet on the Packers. All-time bad beat for me. Allen Lazard just didn't have it last game. I think he will be able to have it in this matchup up against the Bears, but I want to see it first before I categorize him as a start. Final matchup of the week, we got the great and excellent primetime matchup between the Seattle Seahawks at the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. In this one, I like Metcalf and Lockett. Why? It's a no-brainer. That's why. You start Metcalf, you start Lockett every single week. Even when one of them has a down game, you just expect them to have big games in the future. The Eagles' defense sucks. The Eagles are a shit team. Metcalf and Lockett, amazing wide receivers, amazing quarterback, Russell Wilson, no-brainer. Rager, Fulgham for the Eagles. I don't know what to do with the Eagles' offense. If I had to start one, it would be Rager. This matchup is cupcake season for the Seattle Seahawks, or for the Eagles against the Seahawks defense, but with how bad Carson Wentz has looked, I'm not too sure I trust it, so I'm sitting both of them down, unless my opinion changes later in the week, which it does sometimes, so you guys got to make sure you check out the wide receiver rankings video later in the week. I love each and every single one of you guys. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving in 2 days on Thursday. I love you all. Thank you guys so much for coming. Drafters.com. Check it out. Link down below in the description. I love you all, and I'll see you beautiful bastards tomorrow morning with another banger of a video. I love you all. As always, stay safe. Good boy!